So coming to the poem, I hope you all did read the poem and try to work out some meaning. And now let's discuss it together. So as I told you, Paul Laurence Dunbar, one of the first most prominent African American poets, published in 1893, his first book, Oaks and Ivy, and very prolific. Lots of books, novels. In fact, he was one of the first. He was a lyrics writer for the first African American Broadway musical, Dahomey. So he was quite prominent at the time. One of the very first African American writers to gain prominence in the field of literature, in poetic field, and also in the field of entertainment with writing for Broadway musical. And as I said, most of the African American writers had either experienced slavery directly, or they were just descendants, just the parents had been enslaved at some point of time. So the memories of the parents form a part, or the experiences of your parents, so experiences of our parents form a part of our mindset. And in case of Paul Dunbar, he was born to parents who had been enslaved before the American Civil War. So they had spent quite the parents who probably till their youth had been enslaved in as in America. So they have direct experiences of slavery, and all the children, like Paul and his siblings, I think three brothers and a sister. So they did not experience slavery directly, but they would have heard their parents' experiences, and they would have seen several others who were slowly, escaping slavery and struggling to make their lives on their own. As I mentioned earlier, he wrote in the dialect of antebellum South, that is the African American dialect of South, American South, where slavery was was a very prevalent problem. And he also wrote in standard English. And the poem that we read, We Wear the Mask, or the poem that we are about to read, Life's Tragedy, is written in standard English. Now let's go on and discuss the poem together. Okay, let me just give me a minute. Okay, so I hope you're able to see the poem now. Okay, so Life's Tragedy by Paul Laurence Dunbar. Uh, it may be a misery not to sing at all and to go silent through the brimming day. It may be a misery never to be loved, but deeper griefs than these beset the way. So, what did you think? For me, it's a misery not to sing at all. It's a misery not to be able to express your joys and sorrows freely. So it's a misery not. It may be a misery not to be able to express your joys and sorrows, and to go silent through the brimming day. It may be a misery never to be loved. So not finding complete freedom of expression, not being loved, those may be miseries, but deeper griefs, more intense miseries than these. What are these? Not being able to express and not being loved. Deeper griefs than these beset the way. So they're greater griefs than these. Look at the rhyme scheme. I think it is X. If it is uh, one line does not what it's random, plus there's the second line's rhyme. It is basically, you would write it as, x a sorry, x a, right? So here also x, since these two do not rhyme, so they can be x. So xb. So that's how you write a rhyme scheme. So, very colloquial, very spoken, very easy English language, very standardized English language, and yet it captures a it seems to be moving towards a deeper understanding of what is a misery, what is a life's tragedy. That's the theme of the poem, life's tragedy. Not being able to express yourself. Think, put it in context of, as I said, African American lives. Not being able to express the lack of freedom, not be loved, not have relationships, families, and so on. But there are deeper miseries in that. And what are those deeper miseries? To sing the perfect song, right? To suddenly find some perfect moment, to sing the perfect song, and by a half tone lost the key. So you sing, you find a perfect moment, and then suddenly you realize that you've lost it. So not just being able to not express, but here you have not only not being able, you know how it is to express, how to sing a perfect song. You know how it is to being able to get that freedom when you have lost that freedom, when you have lost half tone, and by half tone lost the key, right? So to have it and lost it, that's a greater tragedy. To sing a perfect song, so you know what is a perfect song, you can sing, you can express, and then at on the halfway you lose the tune, you lose the key. There the potent sorrow, there the grief, not only of not having the freedom, but of knowing what it is to have that freedom and having loss. So the sense of loss also. The pale, sad staring of life's tragedy. That is a pale, sad staring of life's tragedy. To have lost, to have had it and then lost it. To have come near to the perfect love, not the hot passion of untempered youth, not just infatuation, not just a hot passion of untempered youth, but perfect love. But that which lies aside its but that which lies aside its vanity and gives for that trusting worship truth, right? So that lies aside, that's not filled with pride, vanity, that is trustworthy, that is built on the foundations of truth. This, this indeed is to be accursed, for if we mortals love, or if we sing, we count our joys not by what we have. We count our joys not by our blessings, what we have, but by what kept us from that perfect thing. What are the little imperfections? So we kind of ponder over little imperfections of life, and we lose celebrating, we lose the sight of, we lose this whole celebration of the things that we have, we lose the sight of things that we have. And that is what we mortals, like he's not talking about himself, he's talking about everyone, we mortals, that we do not count our joys. We count our joys not by what we have, but what kept us from that perfect thing. Life would have been perfect if only I could get this. And you're never able to get everything to make life perfect, and so you concentrate just on what would make your life perfect instead of counting your own the things that you have, right? So that is why the song is never perfect, love is never perfect, because you always count the things more, the other things you could have. If you could link it with the experiences of slavery, racism, and all. As I said, there is not just experience of slavery, there is also this kind of spiritual narrative, the spiritual undertone of what we have, we mortals, we have certain blessings, let's count on those, and let's, but not look for that which keeps us from that perfect thing. So that is, it's a very simple, it's a very short, but it's a very meaningful poem by Paul Lawrence Dunbar. And with that, we begin with African American poetry. Next week, we are going to do Langston Hughes and some more later poets. Harlem Renaissance, if you have heard of it. If you have not, probably you can go and have a look at what was Harlem Renaissance. And we move on from here. Okay, so if you have any problems, write an email, write if you have any questions, write an email, and we move on from here. See you next week.